When data is interrupted or damaged, or the infrastructure is destroyed for various reasons due to instability of geopolitical events, due to weather events, this data does not stop flowing through the world data networks. It has to be rerouted. And so if a piece of data infrastructure were to go down, right, let's just use, for example, some of the data structures going on in the Middle East have been targeted and destroyed by geopolitical events. So with that consideration, all that fiber, all that information, all that data will need to be rerouted to an area that is more stable. Because if they don't reroute it, you're going to have what we call latency. That latency means that everyone involved in that ecosystem, and let's just use YouTube as an example, could feel a slowdown in the rate and speed of download and upload when you're trying to watch a video on your TV or your phone or whatever. It creates a domino effect through the world infrastructure. And so when you're dealing with data centers and that critical infrastructure, which also includes the electrical grid that it's tied into, you must have a stable political system, a stable environment, a stable geopolitical environment, stable energy, and the fiber optics that's connected to that area and to that region. So it creates a closed loop system that allows you, the viewer, to basically watch my video that you're watching now. And so as these things move forward, if you're thinking about your future and your career, something to keep in mind is if you are involved somewhere in this critical infrastructure, you're going to have a more long-term career possibility. That doesn't mean you're not going to get laid off. That doesn't mean that your job isn't eliminated due to artificial intelligence. It just means that you have an opportunity, and you have to use that opportunity to what's best for your situation. So I want you to look at geopolitical events and think about how this applies to something we call game theory. I'm not going to get into what game theory is. I'm going to let you look that up. But worlds and governments, they like to move in ways that aren't necessarily good for the average person, okay? But they could be good for you if you're planning and structuring your own personal education system in order to be able to, I guess, survive in this upcoming age. So it's not just about going to school, getting your degree. There's a certain amount of education that you have to do that you're getting now just by watching me, and hopefully I will trigger things for you to research, and then that research is going to lead to more education in this critical infrastructure. So people have to lay the fiber optics. People have to connect the fiber optics. The sea lanes have fiber optics running underneath there. There's power running underneath there, right? There's a lot of infrastructure around the world that when it is disrupted, they have to shift that need, that availability of data resources to another country. Now I'm going to use the United States as an example, but this same example applies into anywhere in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, you name it, right? So if AWS has a data center that's taken offline, they have all that data that still needs to be routed. So they're going to reroute it probably to the United States, maybe to Europe, maybe to another server in the Middle East. These aren't just small little computer servers. These are giant campuses that encompass thousands and thousands of microprocessors and data cables, right? These are very large computers, basically, that are daisy chained together to provide you with that latency that you want when you press play, that your video plays or your email is delivered, etc. And so that critical infrastructure, you want to be tied into that. So I want you to look at what's going up in your area of the world. How are they going to offset the energy needs, right? Are they building a new substation? Are they trying to bring new electricity online? And let's just use X out in the Mississippi area. They took an old power plant, they brought parts that were taken offline from Europe back to the United States, refurbished the power plant, and now that power plant is running and providing additional electricity for that region, but also driving into that data center. They also had a need of infrastructure from a water standpoint. So where is there a lot of water? Wastewater. Wastewater can be purified and reused to cool data centers. So you don't have to use more infrastructure. Well, you need more infrastructure, but you don't have to use more resources, but you need to reconstruct those resources in a form and fashion that allows you to use them. And in this case, they needed to filter that water. And so it solves the problem for a city, right? But it also solves a problem for industry and for critical infrastructure. And so you, as the employee, the person trying to develop their career, you have to look at where the future is leading. And I want you to think about how you are going to tie yourself into this new critical infrastructure. And all the older critical infrastructure is also tied into the new infrastructure. And you got to look at what's coming on down the line, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, etc. So you're prepared to be able to handle the changes as they come. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to change jobs. Don't be afraid to go out and research and look into working for something that you find interesting. I think that's also important. So as we move forward and we see these critical infrastructure changes around the world, that doesn't mean there's not opportunity. So I want you to look at that opportunity and to see, how is this going to apply to my savings, to my 401k, to my investments, to my day trading, to my career, to my personal education focus. Think about all those aspects as you move forward.